we doing? This session of the Minnesota Committee on Agriculture, Veterans, Broadband and Rural Development from Monday, April 13th is now in session. Thanks everybody for being here. Our first order of business is we need to deal with some subcommittee reports that have traveled from the Veterans Committee to the full Agricultural Committee. So we will be talking through issues that have already passed unanimously through the Veterans Committee, merely to give the sort of imprimatur of the Ag Committee as a whole as these bills move on to their next space. And a quorum is present. First thing is me.
Okay, Senator Putnam, Senate File 4807.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Senate File 4807 deals with the amount of pay for commissioned officers and enlisted members in state active service. Essentially what this bill does, members, is that it is a fairness issue wherein our National Guard soldiers are required to help us all out and help our community through an emergency situation. This merely makes their pay commensurate with those of other folks who are doing that work. So it's a very base, budget neutral increase the pay for National Guard soldiers.
Okay, with that, members, any comments, questions? If not, Senator Putnam moves to adopt this subcommittee report to the full committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Senate File 4807 is adopted. The subcommittee report is adopted. And now, any other questions before we move Senate File 4807? Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, Senator Putnam, just briefly, can you give us a generality of from what to what? What kind of pay change are we talking about?
Senator Putnam.
Certainly, Mr. Chair, Senator Westrom. Essentially, the reason why this, and this is something that I learned as we went through this process, was that why this is budget neutral is that the resources are all coming from an emergency account moment, so it has no consequences on the general budgeting when it comes to the general fund. What we're dealing with here basically is that it replaces the 1997 static minimum of $130 per day with a minimum base tied to the federal E5 sergeant pay grade set by federal military pay tables updated annually. So this is not just a fairness issue, it's also making things more contemporary, again, for those soldiers who have served us.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Senator Putnam, would you like to make the motion to pass Senate File 4807 as amended to the Finance Committee?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Senate File 4807 is on its way. We are now to the Senate File 4560, Senator Putnam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Senate File 4560 formalizes the Commander's Task Force. The Commander's Task Force is a group of individuals who represent organizations that advocate for our folks who have served us. That includes things like the Disabled American Veterans and the American Legion. This merely formalizes the work they've already done and turns them into a more official kind of committee.
Okay, members, any questions before we adopt the subcommittee report? Seeing none, Senator Putnam moves to adopt Senate File 450, the subcommittee report to the Committee on Agriculture, Veterans, Broadband and Rural Development. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The subcommittee report is adopted, and now we are on to the actual Senate file itself. Members, any questions on the Senate file before we send it on its way? Senator Holmstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Putnam, I didn't see that there would be a reason for it, but was there any cost to this task force?
Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Holmstrom. No, there is not.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, Senator Putnam moves that the subcommittee report, Senate File 4560, as amended, be passed and sent to state government. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Senate File 4560 is on its way.
Senator Kupec moves that Senate File 3603, that we adopt the subcommittee report regarding Armed Forces Veterans High School Diploma Establishment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Subcommittee report is adopted. To your bill, Senator Rasmusson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate File 3603 would establish a Minnesota High School Diploma for Veterans program. This would be for veterans who are unable to complete their high school education due to their service in either the Korean conflict or the Vietnam War. This is modeled after similar programs in other states. This bill has had a successful hearing in both the Education Policy Committee and the Veterans Subcommittee. Happy to answer any questions.
Members, questions or comments for the author? Seeing none, Senator Gustafson moves that Senate File 3603 as amended be recommended to pass and referred to the Senate floor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Senate File 3603 as amended is passed and referred to the floor. Thanks very much, Senator Rasmusson. Nice job, guys. Well done. It was very efficient. Now we're switching into our agricultural conversation, and we will have a couple of bills and an informational hearing before us. We will start with Senate File 4479, county's permission to designate certain agricultural lands as unsuitable for electric power facilities. Members and members of the public understand this is an informational hearing. There will be no business or decision taken on this hearing. We just want to have a chance to talk about the issue and ask some questions and learn a little bit more about it. So we'll begin. Senator Kupec, if you would please, position, and Ms. Allen Tully and Mr. Kutchie, if you would please come to the desk. Senator Kupec, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy to have this conversation about Senate File 4479. Certainly, this is something I hear a lot about from my constituents. I'm sure some of you have also heard some of the same things. Minnesota farmland is one of our state's most valuable resources. Minnesota farmers, though, are facing increased land pressures. The Senate File 4479 is about giving local governments a practical optional tool to help protect Minnesota's best farmland. As pressure from development and large utility scale energy projects grow, more and more high quality agricultural land is being converted to non-agricultural use. Large-scale solar projects of 50 megawatts or more are taking out approximately 400 acres at a time. As you'll hear from my testifier, many projects are much larger than that and currently underway. And besides that, we also have the expanding cities going out and other developments taking up potentially prime farmland. Once converted, there's no guarantee that this land will ever come back to agriculture. This bill would allow counties to have a say on where these large-scale projects are happening in their land area based off the soil types and overall productivity of the land. This bill is not an anti-solar development bill. Rather, it provides for an optional tool that would allow local governments to make thoughtful decisions about where energy projects are being sited to ensure the long-term protection of Minnesota's farmland.
Thank you, Senator Kupec. Ms. Allen-Tully, thanks for being here. Tell us how Corn feels about all these things, if you would, please. And if you would please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Dana Allen Tully. Chair Putnam and members of the committee, my name is Dana Allen Tully. I currently serve as a board member of the Minnesota Corn Growers Association. MCGA has nearly 7,000 family farm members and represents all of Minnesota's 24,000 corn farmers through our research, promotion, and education efforts. I farm with my family outside of Iota in Olmsted County. We operate a diversified dairy and crop farm where we grow corn, soybeans, alfalfa, vegetable crops, and winter rye. On behalf of the Minnesota Corn Growers Association, thank you for the opportunity to testify on Senate File 4479, and thank you to Senator Kupec, and the bipartisan list of co-authors for bringing this bill forward. Minnesota's farmland is one of our state's most valuable resources. Minnesota farmers are seeing increased land pressures over the last 20 years from non-agricultural use, including residential, commercial, and industrial development. Increased competition from state dollars being used for habitat and conservation, land acquisition, and now more large-scale utility solar projects. The USDA's Census of Agriculture has shown that Minnesota's farmland acres fell 2 million acres between 2002 and 2022, a trend that has continued with 100,000 less farmland acres in 2025. Large utility-scale solar projects, which are at least 50 megawatts, take a minimum of 400 acres out of production, with many projects taking far more land out of production than that. North of where I farm, a proposed solar project will remove 1,800 acres in a farming community. And west of me, in Dodge County, a solar project over 1,500 acres is underway. Both projects are largely located on prime farmland. At a local level, projects of this size have a significant impact on current and future generations, leaving access to land reduced by 5 to 15% in a farming radius. USDA defines land converted to solar as a non-agricultural use. In contrast, land enrolled in conservation programs, such as CRP, is still considered agricultural. It is highly unlikely that once land is converted for solar production, it will ever go back to being farmland due to a lack of cropping history for re-enrollment into federal farm programs, along with the unknown condition of farmland once a site is decommissioned, if that is the case. In addition, the average rental rate for farmland in Olmsted County, where I farm, is between $250 and $300 per acre, according to USDA. But many landowners are being offered 4 to 5 times that amount for utility scale projects. This is an unsurmountable amount of money to compete with to rent and farm that land, regardless of whether you are a new beginning farmer or an established farmer. These dollars are way too high for us to compete with. Senate File 4479 gives local governments an optional tool to preserve the best agricultural land, since they will understand agriculture's significant economic contribution for their community. The bill allows local governments to have input on where solar production should be sited based off of a crop productivity index, or if improvements have been made to the land that make the land highly productive. Minnesota has a long history of recognizing the importance of agricultural land and agriculture to our economic structure. Passed in 1982, Minnesota Statute 17.80 establishes the position of the state to preserve agricultural land for the long-term use of food and agricultural production, including minimizing the use of ag land for energy production by protecting agricultural land. Additionally, the state should provide local units of government tools and incentives to prevent the unplanned and unscheduled conversion of agricultural land to other uses. Senate File 4479 is in line with the state's goal of preserving and protecting the best agricultural land for agricultural use and providing an optional tool for local governments to best manage land in their area. I want to again thank Senator Kupec for introducing the bill and Chair Putnam for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Allen-Tully. Members, as I understand it, this is our first testifier thinks this is a good idea, and our next two do not. So let's take a chance to an opportunity to ask some questions of Ms. Allen-Tully if we have them. Any questions for Senator Holmstrom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Tully, I've heard that once a parcel's been converted, when it's converted back, there may actually be a problem selling the crops because they might be high in heavy metals. from, that were leached off the solar panels. Is that something that you've heard? Is that something that your industry recognizes, or is that just hearsay?
Ms. Ellen Tully.
Senator Putnam, Senator Holstrom. This is a major concern for us because we have heard the same reports, and while facilities have not been decommissioned in Minnesota at this point, we're really concerned that once that land is put into a solar installation, that it will not become farmable. So yeah, we have the same concern.
Senator Holmstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I've got.
Senator Kunish.
Thank you. But is there any proof, is there any scientific proof that that actually has happened, or is this just a hypothesis?
Ms. Ellen Tully.
Senator Putnam, Senator Kunish. It's a hypothesis, to be honest. Solar, to this extent, hasn't been in Minnesota yet. So we don't have sites that are decommissioned, but if there are solar panels that are damaged, what happens to the damage? Does it fall on the ground? How will those sites be managed or taken care of, or will they just be left? That if they're generating enough solar by the company's standard, or enough electricity by the company's standard, will they go in and clean up anything that happened to the, we'll say, the glass fragments or any of the components that may end up being on the ground? We're not sure of the answer.
Senator Kunish.
So as I'm listening, and these are just thoughts that are coming to my mind as I'm listening, there are huge electrical power lines that go through farmland. Are those lands also decommissioned, and has that ever been a concern? And then I'm also thinking of like wind turbos. I'm sure those break. There's probably parts or pieces that come off of that. Has that been considered as part of this problem?
Ms. Ellen Tully.
Senator Putnam, Senator Kunish. To be honest, I can't answer your question definitively. I think on the base level, one of the concerns would just be what they're made out of, and we don't know the answer.
Okay, and then just one more. And then, I mean, we talk a lot in all our different committees around local control and farmers' ownership or landowners' ownership to do what they would like. We oftentimes put regulations, like around pesticides and other things that, are scientifically proven to damage the land, the air, the water, have effect on human beings. Has there been any kind of a scientific study to sort of remove that personal ability to make the choices or the decisions on what goes on their land or not?
Ms. Ellen Tully.
Senator Putnam, Senator Kunish. So right now, the permitting requirements for these solar installations have no local input. It all goes to the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. And so one of the sites that's north of me, landowners around it didn't know anything about it. And so they're concerned about access to farmland because the closer that we have our fields, the more likely, we'll say, we're able to harvest forages to feed our cows. One of them's right next to a dairy. And so in terms of local control, at a minimum, I think that we have to, as a feedlot, let everyone know what we're doing within a mile. If we're changing land use, number of animals, any of those things, why would there not be some touch point for a local government to have input into where they choose to put solar installations. On top of that is the next generation.
Yeah.
My concern is really the next generation. If I can't afford it, how is a 20-something-year-old going to ever be able to rent ground to come in if they want to farm and feed the world?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen-Tully. Members, we have 2 more members with questions that they'd like to ask. I do want to say I'm grateful at this point because we are actually engaging in a true informational hearing, asking questions for understanding, and that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So this is awesome so far, but we also only have 10 minutes left for this section of our conversation, and we have 2 more testifiers to hear from. So Senator Dames, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and this really isn't a question, more of a comment, but thank you, Senator Kupec, for bringing this bill forward. This is going to be a tough discussion, and these are going to be some tough decisions that may have to be made, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there is an opportunity, but I guess it's going to be hard to get it done, but we have a lot of CREP land, not CRP, but CREP. It's 98-year, 99-year easements. And you know, some of that CREP land is pretty good land that we could actually build these on, these solar gardens, and take the pressure off of buying the good farmland. And a lot of those, you know, the pushback I get when I talk about that is, well, it's tough on the environment, it'll be tough on the wildlife, but those can be raised up high enough that wildlife can survive under those and still have a very functionable system. So I think that's something else we have to look at, is trying to work out something with the federal government to be able to use some of that CREP land to park these things on. And because it is an issue, and we're seeing in my country, good farm country, we're seeing more and more land going to these solar gardens, and something's going to have to be done. So these will be tough discussions, but thank you for bringing it forward, and I hope we could consider the CREP part of it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dames. We have 2 more testifiers to turn to now. The first is Mr. Wait a minute. You're St. Cloudish, aren't you?
I used to live in St. Cloud, absolutely. I live in Monticello these days.
Okay, just checking. Mr. Cudgy, if you would please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Putnam. It's a pleasure to see you. And members of the committee, my name is Alex Cudgy. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to testify. I'm with Geronimo Power. We are an independent power producer that's worked with farmers across the state and the heartland for over 20 years. We're here today because Senate File 4479 is a farmland bill, but it's framed as a protecting farmland bill, but really that should not mean overriding farmers. It's particularly important to us because Geronimo Power was founded by a Southwest Minnesota farmer. He looked at his land and he said, you know, there's got to be a better way for rural counties to survive. So he found an extraordinary seed crop in growing electrons, and he put the first project on his own land. You know, we've come a long way since then, but, you know, that farming DNA is still very much about who we are and ingrained in our values. You know, that provides income certainty in bad commodity years for farmers with these projects. It helps pay property taxes for the farmers. It shares benefits with the community, and it keeps the land in the family. So Senate File 4479, however, moves in the opposite direction, and that's what's concerning for us. Under the bill, once land would be designated as prime farmland, the state cannot issue a site permit for a large facility without county board approval. That's not the farmer, that's not the landowner who's paid taxes on that land for generation. It's the county, which would override some of the most robust, most environmentally friendly and protective laws within the country, and the wonderful state citing environmental review standards that we have here, which provide ample opportunity for local input. So that's for us not farmland protection, that's farmland control. And the bill's opt-out provisions don't in actuality provide for meaningful choice, since there's a process in which the landowner has to go through immediately to opt out. But if they fail to do that, they lose the ability forever, and also any successor or assignee with the land loses the ability for that choice with their land. Also a concern for us is that the bill defines priority land based on productivity, presence of drainage improvement, crop productivity indexes. I mean, those are all things that are really good signs of good farming, and that shouldn't be disincentivized for, you know, for landowners who would then have less of a choice about what to do with their own land. Finally, you know, just want to note that renewable energy and farming isn't incompatible. You know, solar is a voluntary thing. Often, typically, we see a 25 to 30 year crop crop conservation rest that is very similar to CREP, but except privately paid for. And afterwards, the land is fully restored. That's part of the site permits that's issued by the state and can be used for farming again. So for us, Geronimo Power really exists because farmers wanted some of those options. And we would hope that you consider that in some of these discussions today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Cutchy. Up next is Ms. Smarillo. If you would please take a seat at the table, state your full name for the record, and commence your testimony when you're ready, please.
Hello, Madeline Smarillo. You nailed it. Chair Putnam, members of the committee, Senator Kupec, thank you for the opportunity to testify. Like I said, my name is Madeline Smarillo, and I'm the Deputy Director of Siting and Permitting Policy with the American Clean Power Association. ACP is our acronym. It's the leading voice of today's multi-tech clean energy industry, representing energy storage, wind, utility-scale solar, clean hydrogen, and transmission companies. I'm testifying in opposition to SF 4479, which would undermine the property rights of the landowners the bill claims to serve. Landowners know their land better than anyone. Just as they choose the right mix of crops, grazing, or conservation practices, leasing a portion of their acreage for solar or wind is a decision that should remain theirs. This technology provides stable revenue, supports their broader farming operation, and keeps the land in the family. Taking that option away from them by allowing county boards to override those individual choices does not protect agriculture. It removes a tool that keeps family farms viable. Renewable energy projects contribute meaningfully both to landowners and to rural communities. Statewide, clean energy projects provide $55.9 million in annual land lease payments to Minnesota farmers, $55.9 million in lease payments, and $48.1 million in state and local tax revenue. Energy and agriculture have coexisted for decades. And just a note to the questions that were posed on solar's leaching or toxic chemicals, according to the International Energy Agency, solar panels pose no danger to human health or the environment, even in the event of breakage or fire. So even in those extreme weather events, that does not pose a danger to human health or the environment, and studies have shown that. I'm happy to provide more information there as well. But solar can coexist with and even enhance agriculture. For example, perennial vegetation at solar sites can increase soil health, reduce erosion, and eliminate the use of soil amendments like fertilizer. After decommissioning, landowners receive healthier soil than before the project began. Utility-scale solar, notably, is among the fastest resources to deploy to meet rising electricity demand. And Minnesota is a great place to build it. We've already seen $15 billion in capital investment from wind, solar, and storage in the state of Minnesota. Businesses are now seeing permitting certainty from the 2024 Energy Infrastructure Permitting Act. Thank you to those of you who worked on that. Legislation like SF 4479 would reintroduce uncertainty that could chill investment and delay projects needed to keep costs low for Minnesotans. While communities should have a meaningful voice in project permitting, that voice should not include a blanket veto over landowner choice, slowing energy growth in a time when Minnesotans need it most. We urge this committee to reject legislation like 4479, but welcome further conversation about the important relationship between energy and agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morell. As you know, as we mentioned already, we're not taking any action on this today. We're just thinking out loud together is what we're doing right now. And so I'd like to return to the line of inquiry that was begun by Senator Holmstrom and Senator Kunesh. We don't know what happens to decommissioned stuff in Minnesota because we haven't had long enough, but are there other states, other countries where we've had an opportunity to see if there's leftover glass or elements that have residue from the process that has impacted the agricultural viability of land after solar installation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think all the information that we have seen, the studies that we have read and analyzed and provided information on in the resources we provide as a trade association have indicated that that is not a concern. As far as domestically within the United States, we haven't seen large solar projects decommissioned frequently across the nation. Minnesota is not unique in that way. These are projects that last 20 to 40 years, and we really started robustly developing solar across the nation only in the last decade or so. I think the question about remnants of physical pieces of solar. I think that's something that would have to be looked at more specifically if there were, for example, an extreme weather event. But as far as the actual existence of solar on a site and its construction and its removal, that is something that developers and project owner operators take very seriously. Like the testifier previously stated, in Minnesota, we have robust decommissioning expectations and standards for solar projects to ensure that the land is left in a state that the landowner is comfortable and confident in, can ensure future use of the site. And so I think that there's absolutely room for more research to be done, but the studies have shown that it's not a concern.
Thank you, sir. Members, questions, comments? Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, I guess to the testifier, at what point does it become unfair in the sense of there's a lot of tax subsidies going into these projects or requirements? So some of the solar investments are seeing investments from pension funds and other large financial pots or individuals that really are making double-digit handsome returns as part of the legislation that's passed either in Minnesota or federally, but Minnesota augments that typically. And so that becomes kind of an unfair playing field against agriculture. And so how do you square those two things? Because if everybody was dealing without any government incentives or programs to enhance their return on investment, they wouldn't be able to pay these kinds of rates for rent and compete in kind of a tilted market.
Ms. Merrill.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question, Senator Westrom. I think the same question could be asked for any form of development. When you have improvements being made to a site, there are formats of development that are going to be able to provide greater financial returns for that landowner. I don't think that issue is specific to solar. I think we could ask the exact same thing about other important land uses, like housing is just a huge one to think about, right? These are pieces of infrastructure that our nation needs. And I think to the point that Minnesota is further incentivizing or subsidizing solar or wind compared to other land uses, I don't know that that is a concern that holds as much weight as it did 5 to 7 years ago. The nation is seeing electricity demand rise at a completely unprecedented rate. We're seeing costs for traditional fuel sources be unstable, unpredictable, and the nation is turning to wind and solar as financially predictable ways to generate electricity that also don't contribute carbon dioxide to our atmosphere and can significantly improve our environmental concerns and help mitigate climate change, which is something a lot of folks also care about. So when you balance the fact that solar is also not taking up as much farmland as I think we are concerned it might, the numbers can look really, really scary when you're confronted with them initially. But the reality is, and there's a fact sheet we uploaded to the committee today, the actual percentage, even on a county by county basis, that solar is going to be occupying of county land and even county farmland is minuscule. And it has a significant financial implication for the county, raising revenue that can contribute to schools, can contribute to public infrastructure. And I think, yeah, that's what I have.
Senator Westrom.
And I guess, I mean, one of the things that we need to factor in while solar and wind have been a developing technology and the costs have come down significantly. Wind is probably the furthest. I mean, you talk about renewable energy policies, and I mean, one of our policies here is we pick which carbon-free energy to do, and then we outlaw some of the rest. Hydro, for example, is outlawed in the 2040 bill. Large hydro is not recognized as carbon-free, but we all know it is. Nuclear and nuclear modular technologies we're, I think, one of 9 states that can't even discuss bringing that here. And of course, the emissions out of these nuclear plants is H2O, which sometimes confuses people, but it's water. And so we exclude some of those. And so I guess I'm not here to get into a debate, but I just think we need to talk about the whole picture. And if our policies and subsidies steer towards solar and wind right now, which I'm not against, I'm just necessarily, I want to see kind of all of the above strategies, because nuclear and hydro projects would take up much less footprint. And that's kind of the issue and the rub in the ag world, that we don't want to take good farmland out of good production, because we all want to eat, no matter, and heat and cool our homes. And so that's kind of the issue. This is a voluntary bill, or a voluntary option for a county to look at this. There might be counties up in northern Minnesota that have very little ag land that might not ever adopt some sort of policy, and many others may or may not. So I just kind of bring that up as a broad discussion, but I think everybody has some government interaction, and then there's always pros and cons, or pluses and minuses that end up taking place. Lastly, I know in my district around UMM Morris and West Central Research and Outreach Center, they're doing some studies through the LCCMR grants on solar and grazing cattle, and having the pasture, the land being pastured well, some with pollinators. And it seems to me that also could be part of what a county might look at zoning, is to put it where pasture land for livestock would be a good addition, or a good coexistent opportunity for solar or windmills, and still keeping agriculture very near and dear to those areas. And it seems like lands that are more marginal can support that type of livestock. And so maybe we need to get a little more comprehensive look at where some of these projects would be sited. I realize also by power lines is a strategic spot as they try to site, but I think that's the reason for this discussion. And so I just raise those issues as we're talking about it. I think they're concerns we do need to take seriously, and appreciate your chair, Mr. Chair, us having this discussion.
Thank you, Senator Westrom. And this really is an opportunity for us to know our unknowns, as they say. Senator Holmstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To that point, Senator Westrom, the largest, one of the largest solar projects in the entire country is in Sherburne County, right off Highway 10, by the old Sherco plant, and they've employed 2,000 sheep to graze on that land instead of using machinery to mow it down. I thought that was interesting. But to the testifier, so you referenced a few studies. You said there have been many studies. Did you bring any of those studies with you for reference, or can you reference them right now or send them to us later? I'd like to see more about them.
Ms. Murillo?
Absolutely. I'm not sure if the ones I referenced were included in the fact sheet that we uploaded, but I'm happy to send it. It was the International Energy Agency, and then I have another one from North Carolina Clean Energy Tech Center. I can send you our fact sheet on it, and to the committee as well.
We'd appreciate that. Thanks very much. Because we are going to keep talking about this. Senator Holmstrom, you have anything else? Yeah, because we're going to keep talking about this. This is our first conversation of many. And I'm starting to realize that we are now the Committee on Agriculture, Veterans, Broadband, Rural Development, Energy, Climate, and Employment for Sheep. So I think we've got just about every box covered. Members, any other final, very quick questions or comments? Seeing none, since this was an informational hearing, this bill will be held over for possible inclusion. The conversation is going to continue. Thanks very much to our testifiers for participating in the conversation today. And thank you to you, Senator Kupec.
Sure. Can I just make a couple of quick,
Please do.
super quick closing remarks? Because
Sure.
I think Senator Dames is right that going forward we're going to have a lot more conversations about this. Certainly, wind, solar are right now some of the cheapest and fastest ways to put up, but then again, that's going to put more pressure, on to our land and local control property rights. If you own that property, what do you have the right to do? And taxes come into play on all of this, and including rising land value prices puts more pressure on that. So those are all things I think that we'll be certainly dealing with into the future. And I know as I drive around other places in the country too, I feel like they do a good job of putting some of this on some land that is maybe not used up as much along interstates and clover leaves and things like that. And we just don't have that yet in Minnesota. So I think those are, easy areas where some land is not being put into any kind of use that we could really utilize. So that's my comments. Thank you for the conversation, committee. This was a great informational hearing. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Kupec. As this is Senate File 4479, will be laid over for possible inclusion.
Senator Putnam, Senate File 3912.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think most of us are familiar with the Agriculture Utilization Research Institute. If you aren't, it's incredibly important. They do phenomenal work. One thing that's especially important for us to realize within the context of this bill is that it's our fault that they exist. The legislature created AURI. We therefore have a responsibility to keep it viable. I think our friend Senator Dan Sparks is here to tell us a little bit about AURI and the specific pickle that they find themselves in, and how this little appropriation would help them out of that situation.
Mr. Sparks, you can say your name, because we got to do that, and then begin your testimony.
Is that a Minnesota pickle, a Gedney, or what brand of pickle?
Mr. Chair, Senator Westrom, I should have known that you would focus on the snack element of my joke.
And if there are pickles, I'm sure they can help you bring them to market.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. For the record, my name is Dan Sparks, the Director of Government Industry Relations at AURI. We're very grateful that Senator Putnam is willing to hear this bill this afternoon, has been working long to support us, as many of you have as well. So if it's okay, I'll just make some brief remarks, and then happy to answer some questions if possible. This is an ongoing litigation, so there's certain things that we have to be very careful when we're discussing. But I will begin, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
AURI is defending its brand, requiring additional legal expenses. We initiated a dispute with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office when we became aware of another business using AURI to sell food products. We are in the process now via the Trademark Office Trademark Trial and Appeal Board. That board will provide a decision at the end of this phase. A decision at the Trademark Trial and the Appeal Board is expected in approximately July of 2026. That decision will exert pressure on AURI Nutrition to stop, but to make them using AURI, we would still have to sue them. The funds are being used to move through the lowest cost pathway at this point to get this other company to stop using AURI. We have already experienced confusion between AURI and AURI Nutrition and have over 100 examples of people contacting us thinking we are the AURI, and quite frankly, they're not very happy at all with the other AURI. We are also concerned that a legitimate Minnesota business searches for AURI to assist in a value-added product. They may be misdirected to the other AURI. To date, end of the March, we have spent about $100,000 on this effort, with most of the funds being expended in the past 2 fiscal years. As I noted earlier, we have many examples of confusion and believe we have a strong case. The AURI board is highly supportive of protecting our hard-earned brand and reputation. Thank you for your support of AURI and value-added agriculture, and with that, I'm happy to answer questions if possible.
And that is where we'll head. Members, do we have questions? Senator Kunesh.
Thank you. So this is an active lawsuit? It is?
Correct.
Thank you. And in your lawsuit, are you asking for the recovery of any funds that you have to use to defend your AURI?
Mr. Sparks.
Mr. Chair and Senator Kunish, I believe that the correct answer there would be potentially. I think we'll know more after that July decision at the appeals level. And if it's okay, acceptable to you, I would be happy to ask our executive director and our legal team, and if I could get a response back to you, would that be acceptable?
Senator Kunish?
Yeah.
That would be great. I mean, I hope that would be part of the lawsuit, that you were able to recoup some damages,
Right.
you know, and consider the time and the effort that you all have put in to responding to all of these callers or communications that you've had to respond to in order to sort of preserve your own reputation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I would hope that there's something in there, something in it for you guys. I don't know how that works, if that would be something you'd have to roll back into our state government, but if we're able to expend these dollars to support you and you're able to recover some kind of damages, financial damages, it would be interesting to see, you know, how those dollars would be best used, whether to stay within your program to help others, but also where that might be going back into our state coffers.
Absolutely.
Senator Dames.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't know if you can tell me this or not, but is the other AURI in a different state?
Mr. Chair and Senator Dames, I believe I can tell you that, but yes, the answer is they're in Colorado.
Senator Dames, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, maybe refresh me and refresh our committee on kind of the overarching legal issue. As I understand it, another organization, maybe intentionally, has taken your site and your name and brand and basically selling under that. So two parts of the question: how is that affecting you? What's kind of the realistic problem? Somebody finds their website and then another link to your website, and they might have choices on their searches, and then what does that turn into? I mean, how have you tangibly noticed the difference?
Mr. Sparks.
And then secondly, you're in an appeal, so I'm assuming you're through district court. Did you prevail at district court, or what's the status of that original decision?
Okay. Mr. Sparks.
Mr. Chair and Senator Westrom, thank you for the question. To the first part, I think it's just that confusion that they're using that ARI, and apparently they're spending a lot of money on advertising, so they kind of leapfrog over our site. And so I think that's where most of the confusion comes in at that point. To the second part of your question is, we are currently in that Trademark and Trial Appeal Board, and they are expected to give us a decision by July this summer. And then we'll know next steps. If we're successful there, then we'll hope maybe they will just cease using our AURI name. So we're fighting hard to protect our brand and reputation that we've held here in the state of Minnesota for over 30 years.
Senator Westrom.
So if I heard you right, you're saying at the Trademark Appeals Board, so that's kind of in the administrative process right now with the trademark. You haven't had to file it in court yet?
Mr. Sparks.
Mr. Chair.
Or did I miss you?
Senator Westrom, I am not an attorney, but I know that's like I said, we were trying to take the least expensive route, first of all. And then if the result that comes out of this isn't what we want, then we would have to move on and spend more money to fight this moving forward in the courts. Okay, is my understanding. And again, I'd be happy to follow up with you after I visit with.
Sure. And just and if no is the answer, that's fine. Just tangibly, I mean, is there some examples you can point to of what it's cost you, or what you know, what an order has done or not done because of this confusion? Just tangibly, any couple examples, and if not, at the top, I'm not trying to put you on a spot.
Right.
So.
And I think if it's okay with you, I wouldn't feel comfortable answering that for you right now. I could ask my executive director and our attorney and see if it's fair to share that information with you, if that's acceptable.
Senator Westrom?
Yeah, that's fine. They can follow up with an email of maybe some, to the extent they can. But appreciate it.
Yes, yep, you bet. Yes, yep, you bet.
Any other questions, members? Seeing none, back to you, Senator Putnam. Anything else?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you to Senator Sparks for being here to lend his expertise and let us know a little bit more about what's going on. We didn't have an informational hearing about ARI this year, but we have every prior year. It's an incredibly important organization created by the legislature to add value to the things that we grow in Minnesota. So we have a responsibility legally and ethically to make sure that they can do what they need to do. And maintaining their trademark and their identity is an important part of their work. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and with that, Senate File 3912 will be laid over. Okay, and while Senator Putnam comes up here, I will call up MDA for a presentation on agency supplemental budget recommendations.
Okay, folks, before us now, we have a presentation from our dear friends at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture to talk about the supplemental budget recommendations. Commissioner Vaubel, Ms. Medina, if you would please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. For the record, I'm Andrea Vaubel. I serve as Deputy Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture.
And thanks, Chair. My name is Michelle Medina. I serve as Director of Government Relations for the Minnesota Department of Agriculture.
Thank you so much for having us. So we are here to present the governor's supplemental budget recommendations. You will notice that there is a little bit of a theme. It's budget neutral, so there is no fiscal impact to this bill. There's actually some savings, so we'll go through this. And I tend to talk pretty fast, so let me know if I need to slow it down, but there's not too much to get through. So we'll start with the Rural Finance Authority Agroforestry Loan Program. Again, this is budget neutral. It expands the practices that Minnesota farmers can finance through the Agroforestry Loan Program out of our RFA. The agroforestry loan program has been very lightly used and requires updates to better align with practices that are becoming more commonplace since the inception of this specific program in 2000. The expansion includes agroforestry crops and agroforestry systems such as silvopasture and alley systems. Next, we have our seed potato statute changes. So this has come before the committee a few times over the last few years. We've been able to get some, come back to you with some statute changes that are supported by the seed potato growers here in the state. It is budget neutral and updates our seed potato certification processes and enforcement requirements, makes definitions and procedures clearer and removes obsolete references, moves penalties and enforcement to our 18J statutes to align with other plant protection programs within the agency, and permits the use of agency general funds to support the program if needed. One thing we'll notice just on efficiencies is this does update the language to allow seed potato growers to print their own certification tags. And allowing growers to print their own tags could result in a small revenue loss for the MDA of approximately $10,000, but would be offset by the same amount due to reduced labor and supply costs. Next is another budget neutral item for our industrial hemp statute changes. This updates Minnesota Statute 18K, the Industrial Hemp Development Act. It aligns the statute with the state hemp plan that we have filed and approved with the USDA. It does create one license for both growing and processing raw industrial hemp. It also gets us in alignment with some authority that the Office of Cannabis Management has when it comes to concentration and of hemp-derived cannabinoids. And next, another efficiency proposal. So again, budget neutral. We're just looking to combine separate agri-legislative reports into an annual report. That'll be the Food Retail Improvement and Development Grants Program, or FRIDGE. That used to be the Good Food Access Program, our Bioincentive Program, as well as our Biofuels Infrastructure Financial Assistance Program. We also are proposing to reduce the Dairy Development and Profitability Enhancement Report from annual to biannual. Another budget neutral request is the appropriations technical changes. So this aligns prior appropriations with our agency's current organizational structure and our operations. This is specifically for our Emerging Farmers Office. It is now housed out of our Ag Marketing and Development Division, so we're just changing where it is within the appropriation language. Same with our Office of Emergency Preparedness and Response is now under our Food and Feed Safety Division. We have a couple of additional budget neutral items. This was originally in our policy bill, which have changed over to our budget bill. This is a technical clarification for our special event food stands. So it clarifies the 2025 legislative session language that you all worked on requiring initial year license fees for food handlers. It does not apply to business meeting the restrictions of a special event. The special event food stand, food businesses pay a reduced flat fee of $75, can only operate for a total of 10 days within their license period and have a minimal food safety standards. We also do a technical fix that clarifies that a special event food stand license, which is limited to only 10 days of operation during license period, cannot be prorated or applied for after. And then finally, some additional policy changes, or I'm sorry, budget neutral changes to our retail food delegation. So this updates the agency authority to delegate regulatory food safety oversight to local community health boards. It also is a technical update that will repeal and amend specific statutes where there is a single clear statutory reference about delegating duties to local community health boards. And that is the whole of our governor's supplemental budget requests. I'll just note that there's a couple of things, not necessarily in this bill, but pertains specifically to agriculture that we, of course, are interested in. We've talked about our bonding request for RFA, as well as our East Grand Forks potato facility, as well as we're also very interested in, it's listed in the governor's budget book under ag for the sustainable aviation fuel tax credit, which we will be hearing in Senate taxes tomorrow morning. And of course, something very we're supportive of as an administration and specifically at the Department of Agriculture. With that, I'd love to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Valbal. I have a very pressing one that's been bothering me since you began your presentation. The fridge program. Do you have people on staff at MDA who work exclusively on clever acronyms?
Mr. Chair, yes. No, they are our marketing people who are very good at coming up with really good acronyms. So if you need any help with that, you just let us know.
Taxpayer dollars well spent. Thank you for that. Members, questions or comments for Commissioner Valbal or Ms. Medina? Whoa. All right. Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, Deputy Commissioner, you mentioned the $75 cap on the special food license fee. Can you just explain that a little bit more? I wasn't fully clear on everything.
Commissioner Valbal.
What are we changing there? What are we limiting or expanding?
Mr. Chair, Senator, yes, so we're not changing anything. This is already existing statute. We're just clarifying that they have to pay that fee up front before they do their event. So it's just clarifying the language that we kind of missed when we did the updates to 28A last year.
And what would those events be, Mr. Chair? Just give us a few examples, like flea market or farmers markets, or what are the events?
Ms. Medina.
Yep, Mr. Chair, Senator Westrom. Yeah, so it'd be some of those smaller events. So if someone's going to a community event for a day, like a festival or that, so it'd be also products that are very low risk to consumers. So it's a lot of charitable organizations will use this. A lot of charitable organizations will use this food license.
Okay, and is it what groups are using it? Mostly cottage food, or what kind of event?
Ms. Medina.
Businesses would be using that.
Come on up.
We're going to phone a friend.
Please, the committee is glad to see you again, but if you would please, for the record, state your name and commence your testimony one day.
Hi, my name is Catherine Simon. I'm the director of the Food and Feed Safety Program for the Department of Agriculture. All right.
So the question, I believe, Ms. Simon, has to do with, actually, Senator Westrom, if you would.
Similar question, I don't know if you heard it, but who are those special event applicants, generally speaking? I mean, like, who's going to be getting that license from you or needing it from you to do a special event?
Chair and Senator Westman. So the businesses that use this, so it would not apply to cottage food. So cottage food is a separate registration for folks who are exempt from licensure. So this particular one would apply to either businesses, individuals, or other charitable organizations that would require a license, but it's a special category of license because it's typically only used for 10 days or less. So that's the limitation on it, is they can only use it for 10 total days of setup. Most of the time, this is for things like town festivals. They would set up potentially at county fairs, various other farmers market, flea markets. So there's no limitation on the type of venue. So the main restriction here is that the update that we're proposing is to clarify the fee that they pay is not subject to the initial fee prorating that we put in place for the other types of licenses. So the reason why that was a miss was because there was an assumption that this did not require a proration because it is only good for 10 days in a license period anyways. So that's the clarification that we're putting in here, is to make sure it's clear that they would not be prorating, because we would not be able to prorate based on how they're allowed to use it, because they can use those 10 days at any time within the year that they choose to use them.
Senator Western.
Okay. That ending helped clarify a little for me. So it's might be a 2-day event in June, and then another one around the 4th of July, and then another one Labor Day, and so on, that the party or the entity is doing, and that's part of the 10-day special event. It doesn't have to be 10 days consecutive.
Ms. Simon.
Mr. Chair and Senator, yes, that is correct. They have an entire year to use all of their 10 days. They could use it all 10 days in a row, or they could divvy it up throughout the year in any way at other events if they so chose.
And not to belabor it, any example? I mean, I'm trying to just in my mind think of who might be the ones applying for this. Can you give us kind of a tangible idea? Is it the town that would be applying for it? I'm thinking not. I'm thinking more of a vendor that sells certain things. Is that correct? And if you do, just for my own little mind, just like 1 or 2 examples of who might be the ones applying for this.
Ms. Simon.
Chair and Senator Rossum, yes, it's a broad list of folks. So for example, whenever they would meet the requirement, they would have to have a license. So if they're actually preparing food or handling food, this could be anything from an association, say a youth baseball league, where they want to, if they're hosting a tournament and they would like to have food sales that go back into their youth organization, that would be an example of someone who may use this. This could be for any individuals that are looking to kind of test out a market or make some money. So in most of the time for the Department of Agriculture, this would be for most of the time what we're seeing is charitable organizations where it's some sort of 501c3 where the money does go back in for either a donation purpose or other support for their charitable organization. It's not limited to that, though. This could be anyone. So if a business is starting and they maybe don't have enough money to invest in the full requirements to be able to get a license because they would have to have commercial equipment and have a higher investment cost, they could choose to take this license out, use equipment that's to a lesser standard, be limited to the 10 days, but continue to keep that money for themselves and investment in their business to get additional equipment as another example of how folks may use it too.
Okay. Senator Kunish.
So would another example be, for example, a food truck? Or, okay, so would a food truck be able to access this? Is it statewide? So once you get that 10 days, can you go anywhere in the state? And does it sort of, would it circumvent any local licensing requirements? So like the city of Minneapolis, if somebody wanted to come in with a food cart and they want to license that, and they want that person to pay a fee, would this alleviate having to meet the city of Minneapolis's requirement, or would this also be on top of that?
Ms. Simon.
Chair and Senator Kunish. So I would say, yes, a food truck, which is a motorized piece of equipment, a food cart, which is more of a hand-pushed one, could apply for their license to apply for a special event license. Most would not, because they have the equipment necessary to achieve a full license. And the limitation of it only being for 10 days would still apply to them. So if they were only going to operate for 10 days an entire year, yes, they could apply. Most would not, though, because the investment in the equipment and for running it, a 10-day period wouldn't normally suit them. With that said, though, at the Department of Agriculture, we have authority for licensing and regulating food at the state level. We then delegate that down to locals. So if they apply for a license, anyone is applying for a license from the Department of Agriculture. The language in our statute is that our license is good statewide. So if it's a mobile type license that would be moving around, that license would be good throughout the entire state, even in areas where we delegate authority. So the license would be recognized. If it's an agency that we delegate authority to, they may inspect, they would have the authority to inspect, but they wouldn't be requiring another license.
Senator Kunish?
Just one follow-up. So I have a daughter who has a food truck, and I know one of the things that they struggle with is that, let's say somebody wants to have them at their graduation party and bring the truck in. And and I'm just trying to think, because I know she had this problem, that there was an issue around licensing that either the city they wanted to go to didn't have certain licenses, or it was really an astronomical amount. It just wasn't, feasible for her sales to do something like that. So would she be able to use this specifically and like counter? I'm just trying to figure out if this would give her, give them or any other food truck that in to do a very special event, one night, couple hours, and it would still be valid.
Ms. Simmons?
Yes, Chair and Senator Kush. Typically, it's not layered because once you have a license, you have a license or you don't. The question that you pose, my guess is that it applies more towards things that are in the jurisdiction of the Department of Health rather than Department of Agriculture. So we have shared jurisdiction over the regulation of food in Minnesota at the state level, but our statutes are different, and we both also then delegate to locals, but that delegation language is also different. So that's the part where the last provision that was shared for the budget neutral budget bill was updates to our delegation language as well. So I would say this provision is something that may be worth discussing, but I can't make a blanket statement as to how it would apply over at the Department of Health.
Thank you. Members, any other questions or comments? Thanks very much. You had us at budget neutral. Now, we are going to walk through some stuff that's being passed out to you now. It was sent out to some members over the weekend, so it shouldn't be a big surprise, but Ms. Painter is going to walk us through Senate File 5073, which will be the vehicle for the delete everything that we will hear on this upcoming Wednesday. Members, just for your awareness, recall that will be the day that we actually amend and take testimony and do all that sorts of stuff. Right now, we're just walking through it all. And Mr. Olafson will start us off as soon as everyone has their paper copy. So, Mr. Olafson, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, you should have just received a spreadsheet, two-page spreadsheet that's top left corner, Agriculture, Broadband, and Rural Development, 2026 Chair's recommendations. So just to orient you to the spreadsheet, column A is the various appropriations. Column B shows which fund these changes are coming from. Column C shows whether it's a direct or not appropriation. Columns D and E are the governor's recs, and columns F through K are the chair's recommendations for the Senate. Just to give you an overall orientation of the overall impact of the bill in front of you, there's a net impact of $80,000 in fiscal year 26 from the general fund of the bill in front of you. But I will now just walk through the various line items. On line 7, MDA just discussed this. This is the Office of Emergency Preparedness shift. Beginning in fiscal year 27, $250,000 per year is coming by moving this program underneath protection services for for a net impact of $250,000 in 26-27 and $500,000 in 28-29, but you'll see a corresponding savings within the admin and financial assistance division. On line 8, this is the egg donation post-quality assurance deadline provision that from Senate File 3891. This is a budget neutral provision. Moving to the Egg Marketing and Development Division on line 11, that's the egg marketing. This is combining and reducing legislative reports that MDA just discussed. This is a budget neutral provision. On line 12, this is the shift of the Emerging Farmers Office into the Egg Marketing and Development Division, up $1 million per fiscal year, beginning in fiscal year 27. So for a net impact of $1 million this biennium and $2 million the next biennium, and this will have a corresponding savings within the admin and financial assistance. On line 13, this is the Dairy with an I eligibility expansion that has already passed the Senate floor from Senate File 3832 that expands eligibility to roughly, for this program, to roughly 30 additional farmers. And then moving on to line, but budget neutral, no new spending. On line 16 and 17, these are the corresponding shifts that I already mentioned. On lines 18 and 19, this is extension of unencumbered funds for the down payment farm down payment assistance program to fiscal year 2030. The past biennium, there was about $801,000 that was returned to the general fund. So this shows by extending the unencumbered amounts to fiscal year 2030, you'll see there's a corresponding savings and spending to follow our budget rules of $801,000 on lines 18 and 19. On lines 20, that's the budget neutral rural agroforestry update that MDA just discussed. On line 31, this is from Senate File 3912 that we just heard for the legal costs for AURI. This is $80,000 in fiscal year 26 with availability through FY29 to pay for these legal costs. On line 40, this is the farmer with the University of Minnesota. This is it impacts them, but it's budget neutral, no new appropriation for it. On farmer lender mediation, a sunset extension of that to 2032. Moving on to page 2 and on to page 2 of the spreadsheet, you'll see the overall general fund summary of the $80,000 fiscal year 26 on line 47 to AURI. And then just moving on to the non-general fund expenditures. For on line 56, seed potato certification enforcement statute changes, there's a reduction in spending of about $10,000 per fiscal year beginning in fiscal year 27. So for less spending of $10,000 in FY27 and $20,000 in the tails. This has corresponding reduction in fee revenue as well. On line 57, this is another governor's rec, the industrial hemp licensure and regulatory statute changes for reduced spending with corresponding less fee revenue as well, or of $15,000 in fiscal year 27 and $30,000 in the tails. This is to the ag fund. And then the specialty event food stand fee, technical change from the governor's policy bill originally. That's a budget neutral provision that MDA just walked through. And then there are the corresponding on line 62 through 64. Those are the corresponding fee changes as well, or reduction in fees that correspond with those expenditure changes. On line 65, the delegated authority for retail food that MDA discussed, budget neutral. This comes from originally from the governor's policy bill. And then on line 66, there's the sale and use of paraquat dichloride prohibition, which has a reduction in fee revenue beginning in fiscal year 28 of $14,000 and $98,000 to the ag fund. So for a total reduction in fee revenue of $112,000 to the ag fund in the tails. So on line 69 shows the total non-general fund impact of just everything else balances out except for the paraquat dichloride prohibition loss of revenue of $112,000 to the Ag Fund in 28-29. And then just to orient you, and that concludes my walk through the spreadsheet, and then I'll just briefly touch on a couple points within Article 1 of the DE amendment to Senate File 5073. So on page 1, section 1, that's the AURI appropriation of the $80,000. Section 2, beginning on page 1 and going through page 14, that's the dairy with an I bill. And then just everything else matches up with the spreadsheet, but I would also point your attention to line 20, page 29 through primarily page 30. This is updating the prioritization process for the down payment and assistance program and has the extension to fiscal year 2030. With that, that concludes my portion of the walkthrough. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. Ms. Painter.
Mr. Chair and members, I will take us through Article 2, which is the agriculture policy provisions. And I will jump around a little bit because I've grouped them by topic area rather than just going chronologically through the bill. So sections 2 and 3 relate to the farm down payment assistance modifications. And these are from Senator Putnam's Senate File 4586. Section 2 modifies the definitions by adding eligibility requirements, and Section 3 modifies the grant awards to be no more than 30% of the purchase price, requires recipients to verify their income or investment of at least $1,000 each year for the first 5 years. Section 5, starting on page 33, is a prohibition on paraquat use. That comes from Senate File 4160, which is Senator Hoffman bill. There have been some changes to it. I'll just ask you to ignore the double clauses on lines 33.12 and 33.13. This is drafted in a bit of a rush. So just ignore the first clause, starting with unless. Related to that prohibition, Section 48 of the bill on page 73 requires the commissioner to report on the use of paraquat and the status of paraquat in the pesticide supply chain by February 1st, 2029. The next section, a grouping of provisions relates to seed potatoes, and I won't go into these in detail because we just heard a presentation from the Department of Agriculture about this. There are a number of provisions that are listed on page 2 of the bills, the amendment summary, where there's just conforming changes to reflect the new statute references. And as I said, I don't think I need to go into that in any detail. The next grouping is the industrial hemp provisions, starting on page 38. This is also from what will be Senate File 5073, modifying some provisions in the industrial hemp chapter. Department of Agriculture already talked about these. The next grouping is the food handler licensing changes. These were in our policy bill and were taken out because they have finance implications. That starts on page 63. And again, we discussed those with the Department of Ag, so I'm not going to go into detail on them. The next grouping is the egg donation provisions. This is from Senate File 3835, a joint Senate file with Senator May Quaid and Senator Westrom. This starts in section 38 on page 69, where a definition of quality assurance date is added to the poultry and eggs chapter. And then section 39 on page 70 allows retailers to donate eggs past that quality assurance date to food assistance programs, provided that specified food safety conditions are met. Next, we have a few sections relating to reports that the Department of Agriculture talked about. This is section 1 on page 30, and sections 40 and 41 starting on page 70. The next grouping is the agroforestry loan provisions. There's one, section 4 on page 33 modifies the definition of agroforestry, and then sections 40 through 46 starting on page 71 amend the loan program itself. And again, the Department of Agriculture already discussed that. And then there are a few miscellaneous provisions. Section 6, which is on page 34, modifies the definitions in the inspection and enforcement chapter to reference whole chapters and to reflect changes to the seed potato provisions. This is from the Department of Agriculture's language. Section 20, page 38, is adding specific statutory references for the accounts referred to in the sections from Department of Ag's language. Section 47 is the extension of the Farmer Lender Mediation Act to 2032. It's from Senate File 3583 from Senator Putnam. And then Section 49 has some repealers from the Department of Agriculture's bill, repealing the definition of processor in the industrial hemp chapter, the subdivision relating to sales of industrial hemp to cannabis medical manufacturers, and the section relating to delegation of food handler licensing to local community health boards.
Thank you, Ms. Bader. So we just went through what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. I'm open to a few brief questions if you have them now, if those questions help you prepare for Wednesday. That is in terms of formulating questions for that moment or an amendment that you might be considering. But now is not really the time to interrogate the bill itself, but if you do have questions, members, I can entertain those now. Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Painter, can you just focus on the timelines under the paraquat language that would, as I understand, ban the product in 2028?
Ms. Painter.
Mr. Chair and Senator Westrom, so the changes to that section prohibits sales beginning January 1, 2028, and it prohibits use beginning January 1, 2029.
Senator Westrom.
Very good. That's helpful just for a timeline for now.
Members, anything else? Okay, so remember the deal, folks. We're going to talk about this in depth and amend and discuss on Wednesday. I am going to ask a favor, if I could, and that there's stuff that you want to talk about and you know about it before that time, it doesn't hurt to let me know. So if we can talk about these things before we have the actual hearing, sometimes that's when we do our best work, is when we're being collaborative. So I'd encourage us all to operate that way as we're moving forward. Members, any other questions or comments about anything we discussed today? Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, just on that, I know there's several in the ag community that tune in. I would be interested in just feedback on that provision as we would be considering it Wednesday, and how extensive the use is out among farmers and agriculture, and what are the alternatives. So look forward to that discussion from those in the ag community and us on our committees.
Thank you, Senator Westrom. Yeah. Members, anything else? All right, Senator Dames.
You'll be taking any testimony on Wednesday, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator Dames, we will be. Members, seeing no other questions or business for the committee, we are adjourned.